So next question I had was, what are the biggest barriers you see to change? Because we talk about a lot of change. What do you see as the biggest barriers to change? I mean, there's reg. What else do you see? Is it people? Is it inherent legacy systems? What other things are you seeing, both of you, from your respective organizations? Because T+1 is bringing a lot of change, and we talk to some people, and it's like, we've got legacy mainframe systems. You can't get rid of those quickly. They take time. What other things are you seeing? Or maybe you want to expand upon those particular challenges. I don't know. Open to you guys.
It's kind of a unexciting answer. I think it depends.
Yeah.
Depends on the firm. I mean, you've got a lot of competing priorities for resources, and resources, both time and money, are limited everywhere. So it depends on where your firm is at. We see barriers and challenges in consensus and conviction for what direction to take, where to place your bets, and why within firms. And I think that's just a matter of some of the technology landscape, and even the awareness of it is moving so quickly that there's a difference of opinion on where and how and why to make bets and investments. Certainly the talent landscape ebbs and flows. I mean, COVID shook that up a little bit. There are macro components to that, and then there are the sort of micro elements around skill set, where certain types of technology changes are going to challenge and change what's needed. There is, of course, the continuing shifting landscape of what firms are choosing to do in-house versus out. So I think those are all at play. I mentioned change management earlier. I think that is something that all firms are kind of continually investing and getting a little bit better at, because it was always a part of how you lived prior. It's just that the pace and rate of change is at a clip that feels like it's nonstop. Like you're not out of change cycles, you're just constantly beginning them and working through them. So I think that's just a new normal, and folks are hoping that there's this like COVID, end of COVID kind of things will just steady out a little bit. I think they'll probably be disappointed if you expect that. I think there will continue to be either defensive or offensive opportunities that keep firms on their toes and comfortable with in a state of relative constant change.
Cool. So one of my mentors, when I was really serious about doing what I was doing, really helped me kind of drill this thought in my head, was to approach change was always like a people, process, and technology. That's the sequence, right? And the barriers obviously are within them as well. So when I talk about people, we've seen a lot of initiatives like really fizzle out or fail because people haven't bought in. There are two schools of thoughts, right? One would want, okay, we don't want to change. We'll change probably when change comes. And the other one is we may not know how to do it, but we may have a vague idea of why and what are we trying to do, right? I think building that mindset culturally across organizations, and we do that a lot well internally, but when it comes to external, we don't give it enough attention that it is required. So I think that that culturally needs to change. That's a barrier we need to break. When you talk about processes as well, people, while there is a bigger problem to solve at, right, people would either be all or nothing, right? They either solve the problem for me or leave me to my miseries, right? But that's not going to happen always, right? It becomes very overwhelming to solve that problem at large. When you start breaking it up into like different use cases, like pertinent use cases, having the courage to fail, but fail fast. We've done that a lot. We failed a lot, but that's all right. Fail fast. Do a lot of POCs. For example, the one that we're doing with Taskize is a POC to really help us understand if the value lies in an area that we're trying to explore. If not, let's move on. Let's do the next best thing. But picking up those processes, right, breaking it down, I think that's wherein there are a lot of barriers that I've faced in my career, because everybody just wants to get like the end solution. That's not going to happen most of the time. And then technology-wise, a lot of us are dealing with mainframes, which we love, which go beyond 30 years, right? Probably more than that. So they are not like future-proof in terms of the new technologies, right? What we are on a journey right now is to see how can we kind of lift and drop pieces of components within the new tech stack, right? Which is helping us to kind of get a faster time to market for the products that we're trying to build and innovate. So I think it's that process and the barriers that come along with that, while there are other barriers as well.
Yeah, I mean, the change thing's interesting because I've got two older kids, and they always say to me, they used to say to me, Daddy, what did you do in your last job? And I explained to them, they're like, I don't understand what you do. I work in banking, so I just gave up in the end. But the reality is, they're better at dealing with change. But the challenge I try to get across to them is, you probably won't work in an organization where you'll be able to learn how things work like I did when I grew up, like 30 years ago. I only started when I was 15. So the point is, it's much harder for the youngsters to come in and learn stuff. So therefore, change becomes a barrier in itself.
Think about a fax. I mean, you got graduates coming out who don't even know what fax is.
Oh yeah, and I tried to explain what a tape cassette was to them. They had no idea. I thought I was talking rubbish.
You know, I think that's true, but there's probably an inverse of that too, which is they come into the workforce with a greater affinity for a digital life and a digital journey, right? And they might struggle then more with the domain knowledge and how does a trade flow and what are the components of that, and it might feel more academic to them. And the other way is probably true for the generations that are looking down, saying they know every component of a trade. They could calc it themselves. They used to have calculators on their desk, you know, to strike a nav and things like that, but struggle with understanding how the landscape has moved under their feet.
Yeah, because we I mean, banks and firms hire very bright kids these days, and they come in and do mundane rubbish like sending emails and stuff about acceptance, and they wonder, is this really what I signed up for? That is part of the challenge. We've got to make work a little bit more exciting about how we do stuff, but they're not close to the detail that like used to be.
Yeah, and just to give an example, right? I won't say which organization I was working in, but there was a question that came in from a client which says, what's the status of a trade or whatnot, right? And then they'd given a snapshot of our own application on the email, right? I mean, that's what we have as well. We can't give you any more than that. But there was this young kid, right, who was working with a tenured guy. And he said, go speak to the sub-custodian, right? I mean, you're going to get the same data, right? I would see, you've like dumbed it so much for the kid that he's causing the same issue. So it kind of spirals into those challenges. And then you start training the new generation the same way that you did. Doesn't help the cause.